In this video, we're going to do some percent application problems. So before we jump into the problems, let's just review how we convert a decimal to a percent, because we're going to have to do that in all of these problems. And so let's say, for example, you have the percent 41. You can take the decimal, which remember, if you don't see it written in the number, you can just put the decimal at the very end, and then you're going to move that decimal 2 spots to the left. It's also the same thing as dividing by 100. So if we were to take 41 and divide by 100, we'd also get the decimal form for 41%. So it becomes 0.41, or you can also call it 0.41. Okay, so how do we find a percent of a number? So the first thing to think about, of in math usually means times. And so if you can remember that, it'll be really helpful. So if you think about this example, we're trying to find 40% of 35. All you have to do, you see that word of, that means multiply. And then the 40%, we always want our percentage to be written as a decimal. So we convert 40% to a decimal, which is 0.40. Of means multiply, so that's where we've got these parentheses indicate multiplication, and then times 35. And so if we multiply those two numbers, 12.8, that's the answer. That is 40% of 35. And so keep that in mind. We're going to use that throughout all of these application problems. So let's jump into example 1. So for good service at a restaurant, you decide to give a 20% tip on a $45 bill, and this includes taxes, which means we don't have to worry about adding taxes at the end. How much tip should you leave, and then how much is the total you will pay? Okay, so I'm going to write this out similar to how this is written out up here. So we want to find, for our tip, we want to find 20% of, and remember that's our key word, means multiplication, $45. And so all we have to do is convert 20% to a decimal. So we can take 20, we put the decimal in if we don't see it at the end of the number, and we move the decimal 2 spots to the left, or divide by 100. So we get 0.20. Of, remember, means times, so I'm just going to write parentheses indicating multiplication, and then times $45. And then all I have to do is do 0.20 times $45, and that gives me $9. So $9 is my tip. Okay, then next we're going to find the total. So we've got the tip, now we want to find the total that we're going to pay. And so our bill was $45, so I'm going to take $45 and I'm going to add 9 to that, and we get a total of $54. So we have our tip of $9 and our total of $54. And then before we move on, I just want to mention, because this is just handy in terms of real life, if you ever want to find a tip, remember it's really easy in math to find 10% because you're just moving the decimal. So let's say for $45, if I want to find 10% of $45, sure, you can multiply the decimal of 10%, which is 0.1 times 45. Oftentimes people need a calculator for that. What's nice though is when every time you take 10% of something, you're just moving the decimal. It's just a little trick. You move it 1 spot to the left. So that's really easy to do in your head without a calculator. So 10% of 45 is just 450. And then if you ever want 20%, all you have to do is double it. So 450 times 2 is $9. If you want 15%, then you just need to find halfway between 450 and $9. And even if you don't know that exact amount in your head, you could easily estimate that. So just a quick trick if you want to find a tip at a restaurant without actually pulling out your phone to calculate. Okay, so example 2, we're going to find the sales tax now and total cost on a phone that cost $199.99. So we're going to start by finding the tax. So I want to find the tax rate is 6%. So I want to find 6% of $199.99. So we're going to take 6% and we're going to find the decimal for that. So I move my decimal 2 spots to the left. So 0.06 of means times, and then $199.99. And so then I come over here to my calculator, 0.06 times $199.99. Whoop. All it takes is one number off, or one decimal off, and you got a wrong answer. So you got to be careful with typing. So 0.06 times $199.99, and then it looks like I've got a sales tax. I'm going to write 11.9994. Okay, let's talk about what to do with this, because this is kind of an odd number. So we know with money, you always want to round to 2 decimal places. You only want to have 2 numbers after the decimal because that represents cents. So we're going to look to the right of this 9, which is in the hundredths place, and we're going to come over here. This 9 tells us to bump that 9 up. I can't though because it's already a 9. If I look to the left, that's already a 9. And so then if I go one more, this is a 1. So basically you could almost treat this number right here as like 199 and think, well, what's bigger than 199? If I bump that up by 1, it'd be 200 or 200. So this is actually going to round to $12. So $12 is going to be my tax. And then now that I found the tax, now I just have to find the total. So for the total, I'm going to take the cost of my phone, which is $199.99, and I'm going to add $12 to that. So I'm just going to add, and I get $211.99. So $211.99 is going to be the total cost of the phone after tax. Okay, so last one here. So we've got a shirt's listed at $34.99, but will be 30% off. What is the sale price? So this one's a little bit different because in the other 2 examples, you're taking a percentage and you're adding it to an amount because, you know, tax and tip, it's increasing the amount that you have to pay. This is a little bit different because we're going to be taking this off the amount. But in terms of finding the percentage of this number, that's actually the same. So if I want to find the discount, so my first step, very similar to the last 2, I'm going to find my discount by taking 30% of $34.99. Of means times, so I just take my 30% and I write that as a decimal, which is 0.30, and I multiply that by $34.99. Okay, so I'm going to take 0.30 times 34.99, and I get, just like the last one, I get a number with 3 digits after the decimal, which we don't want because with money we just want 2. So I just want 2 digits. So 9 is in the hundredths place, so I'm going to look to the right of that. That 7 tells me to bump that 9 up. I can't, so I look at this as 49 and bump that up to 50. So my tax is going to be $10.50. Oops, sorry, that's not my tax, that's my discount. So that's the amount of money that I'm going to receive off of the price. And so for the total, the sale price, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cost of the shirt. So I'm going to take $34.99 and I'm going to subtract $10.50. And then when I subtract those, I end up getting $24.49. And so that's going to be the sale price of my shirt. Okay, so we've got a couple more problems, but before we do those, I want to just review a general formula that you can use. This can be helpful, and really we've been doing parts of this formula already. So basically this percent equation formula, it goes like this. So when we want to take a percent of a number, so remember of means times, you can see that here. We've been doing that already. We've been doing a lot of percentages of a number, but we're just going to now look at this as an equation because this might be handy, especially in the last 2 examples, where that equals some sort of part. So one thing to keep in mind is the percent in this equation we want to write as a decimal. So we always want to convert our percent to a decimal, and then we're going to solve for the missing value. So we're always given, we can use an equation like this, we're always given 2 of the 3 parts. So we've got our percentage, our whole, and then our part. We're always given at least 2 of those blanks, and then we're going to solve for the next one. So let's go ahead and do a problem, and I'll show you how this equation would work. So in 2020, $162.5 million was allotted to the National Endowment for the Arts, and that represented roughly 0.003% of the federal budget. According to this information, what was the federal budget for that year? So I see a couple of keywords. One, my eye goes to this percentage and I see the word of. And so I think of this of over here in my formula. So I'm going to start by writing that out. So 0.003% of, okay, the federal budget. Well, do I know what the federal budget is? So I'm just going to write down federal budget. And the only other number that I'm given in the problem is this 162.5 million. Now, that wasn't the federal budget. That was what was allotted to the National Endowment for the Arts. So 0.003% of the federal budget was, which is really the same thing as is, so was, is, represents equal, so I'm going to write an equal sign, was $162.5 million. And so really we've got an equation here. We don't know the federal budget, so I'm going to write this over with an X here for federal budget, and then I'm also going to use a decimal here because we don't want to use the percentage in the equation. So I'm going to drop the percent sign, and then I'm going to move this decimal 2 spots to the left, putting a placeholder 0 here. So I'm going to get 0.00003, so 4 zeros, of the federal budget. I don't know what that is, so X equals the federal budget. That's what I'm trying to find. Equals 162.5. So let's think about this. We've got 0.00003 times the federal budget is equal to 162.5, and that represents millions of dollars. And so at this point you have to solve the equation. And so if I want to get X by itself, I have to undo. Right now it's being multiplied by this number, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to solve this by dividing both sides by 0.00003. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.00003, 0.00003. And then these actually just cancel out. They become 1, and you're left with X equals, and then in your calculator you can just do 162.5 divided by we've got 4 zeros, and then 3 equals. And so then we get a pretty big number. So 5416666.667. Okay. So remember, we want to always round when we're dealing with money, which we are in this case. We're going to only keep 2 numbers after the decimal place. So I'm going to take this, look at this 6, and I'm going to go 1 to the right of that. The 7 tells me to bump that 6 up to a 7. So 5416666.67. So this would be in millions of dollars, which actually ends up being about 5.4 trillion when you have about 5.4 million of millions of dollars. So that is our answer for that one. And then we have one more we're going to do. So a wedding dress consultant receives a commission on all dress sales. After selling a $2,500 wedding dress, her commission was, so was is just past tense of is, so that's clue for maybe an equal sign there, $150. What percent? So we don't know what the percentage is. So since we don't know what it is, I'm going to go up to my equation here and I'm going to write an X for the percentage. So what percent of, this is going to be my whole here, what am I taking this percentage of? Well, the entire wedding dress. So what percent of the wedding dress was, which we're going to put an equal sign there, $150. So here's your equation. X times $2,500 is equal to 150. And then we just need to solve for X by dividing both sides by the 2,500. What that does is these cancel out. The X becomes by itself. And then we've got 150 divided by $2,500. And so we have 0.06 or 0.06. Now keep in mind that when we're writing these equations, whatever the percent, the number is for the percent in the equation, that's the decimal form of the percent. So this is the decimal form of the percent. So if I want the percentage, then I have to take this decimal and I move it 2 spots to the right or multiply by 100. So the percentage is 6%. So she has a 6% or he, consultant, or not consultant, commission.